Hey,
Ladies and
hi.
gentlemen, boys and girls, hello, welcome. We are the Sun Leaders. We're here with Josh Naaman and Annindita Palaus. We are discussing the Healing Sutras as part of the Sun Readers group. This is an absolutely great read. It is, in fact, a healing process. And Annie, we're so delighted that you shared it with us. You are a Sun Leader with us. It's our second book that we've covered. And now we just want to give you a chance to kind of talk us through your writing, why you did it, why it's important, and what we should do with it.
Thank you so much, Eric and Josh, for having me here and for including this book as part of your book club. I'm really honored. And thank you to all the readers who purchased the book and actually devoted time from their life to read it. That's really awesome. And if anybody didn't have the time for whatever reason, you still can buy the book. The link is out there. You can reach out to me, Eric, Josh, anybody. So, one of the things I wanted to mention why I wrote this book is because I personally feel like your health is your greatest wealth. And the reason being that when I was growing up as a child, I really had poor health. And I suffered because of my lack of health quite a bit. And that made me, and not just me, even I saw people in my family as well. And I had this realization pretty early on that health is your biggest wealth. Because even if you have a lot of money, but if you don't have health, you cannot really enjoy that money, cannot really do much if you are not in good health.
Mm.
And when I talk about health, it's not just physical health. I actually came to realize that there are so many different aspects to health. There is emotional health, there is also mental health, and they all go hand in hand together. They are interrelated, and they are, you know, all each and every aspect of your health is important, not just physical fitness. So that was one of the reasons why I got into the whole line of, mind body healing and energy medicine like Reiki and meditation, and also the reason why I wrote this book. I primarily wanted to provide a lot of tools and techniques to readers. They could be beginner readers or people who have already been in this healing journey before, and basically provide a lot of tools and, just a variety of options available to people, tools that have worked for me in the past. So the things that I have discussed in this book are things that I have personally tried, and maybe not every one of the tool I use this day, but most of them I do. So my recommendation would be that even though there are so many tools and techniques in the book, the best tool is the one that you actually use. And
Mm.
to figure out which one that would be, you will actually have to try them out. So this is supposed to be an experiential book, not just something that you read and forget about. Because just like, if you go to a dance class or a martial arts class or a swimming class, if all that the instructor does is just gives you verbal instructions or written instructions, but you don't actually jump into the water, or you don't actually start dancing, or you don't actually do any martial arts move, it's of no use, literally. So studying about meditation, studying about energy healing, studying about visualization is not really going to do much in terms of results. It might expand your mind to
Mm.
new ideas, new ways of looking at things, but until and unless you actually start incorporating some of these practices in your daily life, you wouldn't really see any results. So I would highly encourage that, maybe I have a number of tools, but pick the one that most resonates with you and start practicing it and give it some time. Don't think that just because it is an energy tool is going to work like magic the very first day you use it. One of the things I've seen people do is that they take a tool, especially when it comes to energy work or any kind of spiritual work, they immediately have this magical mindset that this is supposed to work like magic. If you meditate for like 5 minutes a day for like 2 days, immediately people start thinking that where are the changes? Like, why are things not changing yet? They don't have this kind of an expectation with physical things. Like when you actually go to a gym with the intention of having a six-pack ab, so to say, or whatever your intention is, losing weight, nobody thinks that in 2 days they're going to get a six-pack ab or lose 10 pounds. They have a realistic expectation, but sometimes with meditation, people think 1 week of meditation and now I should be like a monk. I should be able to meditate without any distractions. Nothing should, come in between me and my peace, and that peace should continue throughout the day. And that is not how it really works in real life. Even when you would be meditating for maybe months, still things might happen in your life that might just throw you off. Things can start, things can still bother you. And things can still happen in your life that when you sit down to meditate, your mind just doesn't keep quiet. That will happen. Those days would come. So don't just give up just because you have these one off, odd days. And when you first get started, of course, it will be more frequent. So it will be more challenging, of course, just like any other practice. When you first get started, you do feel awkward. It is weird, it is strange, it's new. So be prepared for that. And secondly, I would like to say what I said is just take what you like from the book and leave the rest aside. And often what I've seen is that it's a good idea to come back to a book several times, but over a period of time. So the first time when you read the book, maybe certain parts of it are going to stand out to you, and certain parts might not, make any sense. So whatever makes sense right now, just use that in your life, but actually put the practices to use. And then maybe 6 months or 7 months or maybe even a year later, revisit the book, and you might actually see that certain things that didn't make sense previously is making a whole lot of sense right now. And this is something that has been my own experience with so many books, that I like revisiting books over and over, that sometimes I might be reading something or listening to an audiobook and I might totally miss something.
Mm-hmm.
At the second time when I'm reading it, I'm like, wow, how come I even missed this?
Mhm.
So certain things just make sense at a different, the different point in life, just because you are at a different place energetically. So just try that. I'm sure that would be pretty helpful. And one of the things I thought I would do this time was to take questions. So if you, for the readers who are there available right now, they can definitely ask me questions. And those who are not able to make it right now can always reach out to me. And, I'm always available to answer any of the questions related to the book or any other kind of discussion that you want to have, something along the lines that I spoke about in the book. And I did make one more point. Let me just check quickly if I discussed something that I wanted to.
While you're
Yeah.
thinking of that last point,
Mhm.
what is the best way for someone who might read your book, next month, and they have a question? What's the best way for them to reach out to you?
They can reach out to me by email, or they can even call me. Call, text, email, any of that would be fine. My website is my full name, anninditapaulus.com. It is mentioned on the screen right here as well.
Got it. Okay.
So I was kind of chuckling to myself because we're talking about six-pack abs and getting into the gym and doing that stuff. And it's like, you can get a six-pack spirit. That'd be
Right.
kind of fun. A new T-shirt idea, Mr. Naaman.
That's not a bad one.
So you mentioned that in your book you have, maybe even some things that you don't necessarily spend a lot of time and practice on anymore. But can you tell us what you really do focus on from your book? What are some of the tools and exercises that you use on a fairly regular basis?
Sure. So personally, I love meditation and the practice of letting go, and of course, energy work. So energy work, which I teach, is primarily Reiki. That is the common word that people know it by, but I like to call it energy medicine because what I actually teach is energy medicine. And Reiki is just a commonly known word that people generally know it by.
Mhm.
But yeah, so Reiki is something that I practice more often, and meditation, that is more or less daily. When I'm traveling, yes, it becomes a challenge sometimes with my travel plans and everything. And the practice of letting go and surrendering, that alone has been huge in my own experience. Just the practice of letting go and surrendering. And I could possibly go on and on about that. And in the book, I have actually mentioned a lot of extra resources about the Sedona method, which I came across, about the practice of letting go. And that has helped me a lot in releasing a lot of maybe energetic baggage, so to speak. But energetic baggage that was showing in the form of mental and emotional baggage, certain behaviors, certain fears, and that just helped a lot in dissolving all of that and in increasing my connection to source energy or to my intuition, to the higher mind, whatever word you want to use for it. Because when we have all this energetic baggage, then it is like you are this, your soul is this bright light, but then it's like, a lot of mud has been thrown on that bulb. So now that mud needs to be cleared out before that light can actually start shining brightly. So as you start letting go, it's like layers and layers of that dirt being just removed from your consciousness. So the light of your consciousness can actually shine brightly and you can be more in touch with your intuition. Does that make sense?
Oh, 1,000% it makes sense. Now,
Mhm.
do you work with people on a one-to-one basis or in groups, or what? How do you work?
Yeah, so far I have been working with workshops, they are in a group. And when it comes to coaching, I have so far been working only one on one.
Mhm.
Although moving forward in the future, I do have plans for some group coaching programs, but I haven't yet dished them out. Like, there is nothing on my website currently about that. But that is something I do have some coaching related, some group coaching plans coming up in the future.
That's exciting. I would love to be able to learn about them and promote them, and I think there's great value there. So,
Mhm.
I, I
Thank
don't
you.
mean to kind of like commandeer this, but I do have a thought, a question. You mentioned that you struggled with health when you were young.
Hmm.
How long did it take you to discover this process of healing? And would you consider yourself, if your wealth is in your health, would you consider yourself wealthy now? So how was that process?
Yes, for sure. So yeah, growing up, I actually had asthma, which is like breathing problem. And I guess, I mean, back in New Delhi, it's quite common for people to have because of the pollution level and everything. And that really brought my energy levels down quite a bit. And a lot of other issues associated with that. Like every time I would get a cold, I would have a high tendency of getting bronchitis and, having all this chest congestion and breathing problem and all that stuff. So of course, growing up, I didn't have access to any of these tools. In my family, there was no such discussion or awareness around any alternate methods of healing. So the only thing I would have is just medication. And that was this asthma pump that you use for whenever, you feel like that shortness of breath. So I was relying on that medication. It went so bad at a certain point that I would have to start taking it like 5, 6 times a day.
Uh,
And it was not year long, but there were certain seasons when it would go really bad.
Mhm.
And and I mean, I would feel like using it more, but then there was a limit to how many times in a day you could be using it. So I couldn't. But well, thankfully, I got introduced to a friend who was doing this breathing technique. It's called pranayam, like pranic breathing technique. And she told me that her sister received a lot of benefit from that technique. And through that, I found this place called Art of Living, and they teach this breathing technique. And I didn't even take their lesson from the actual teacher. I learned it from my friend at first because there were no workshops happening in my area. And just by doing that, the very first day, I saw so much results that that very first day, my the number of times I was using that inhaler was already less by like I was using it 2 times lesser. So, and I was like, my chest, my lungs just felt much more open. And after doing those techniques for just 1 week, I didn't have to use my inhaler anymore. So I was like, oh my God, where was this technique all this time? And of course, they have been teaching these workshops as breath work techniques for a long time, but it was just never in my awareness. And since then, I have been doing so. This technique, it consists of a series of steps. It is primarily breath work and then some meditation at the end. So that was literally my first introduction, so to speak, to this world of alternative healing, where I realized that there is a whole world out there of healing yourself without relying on medication, which is so much more powerful and potent than what medications could do, because of course medications come with their side effects, and there is only so much medication you can put in your body. After that, you cannot. I mean, there is a limit to that. So that was just
Mhm.
such a mind-blowing experience I had. And then I stuck with that for quite some time. And then after I moved to the US, because the pollution levels were low, then I felt like I was not needing any kind of medication. I mean, I was already off medication since I was doing the breath work back in India. But after coming to the US, there was a time when I kind of stopped using it because I didn't need to do any pranayam or use any medication because there was much less pollution. But then I
Mm.
started realizing, I think that was during the pandemic, 2020, when I started realizing that even though I don't need it for maybe physical health anymore, but for my mental and emotional well being, this is a great time to get started back again.
Hmm.
And then I retook, and luckily, well, because of the pandemic, I guess one of the good things was that a lot of workshops started becoming available online. In the past, this particular workshop was never done online, but then it became available. And many other advanced workshops that I wanted to take from the art of living, which I couldn't because I just couldn't have time to travel to their retreat center and stay there for days to do them. So then I dived into silent meditation retreat. And of course, even before that, after I moved to US, I had extra time. So I got into Silva meditation, Silva mind and body healing. So that was all like going to a deeper state of mind and using that for healing your body and for visualizing to create create a different reality for yourself. And that, of course, unleashed a whole lot of different changes in my life, in my relationships. I moved out of my previous relationship, went into a much more better, empowering relationship. A lot of things changed. So,
Hmm.
yeah, I mean, one thing just led to the other. I
Sounds
might,
like sounds like you in your journey, it's like what you recommended with your book is that you tried all sorts of stuff and took what worked for you along the journey. I mean, it seems like when you're going through these processes that if you're in the mindset and the mode of self-improvement and healing yourself and doing the work, then you're going to be moving the needle forward in some way. But what's sticky is what you were sorting through all these different techniques, which is cool to hear about. I didn't
Mhm.
mean to cut you off. I just wanted to point that out that there's the relationship to what you recommend just to, as we go through your book like that.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, and it's not always easy. Again, I mean, I always suggest not to get into magical thinking just because you're working with energy, something that you cannot see. So sometimes people get into this idea that, okay, once I'm on the spiritual path, so they kind of start thinking of it as a way of escaping reality. And the spiritual path is not a way of escaping reality.
It's almost the opposite.
Exactly the opposite.
Yeah.
Yes. You will be facing, you have to be face to face with things that you fear the most, for sure.
Mhm. Yeah.
Otherwise, I mean, if any spiritual work is actually leading you away from facing reality, then it's not really spiritual. It's just escapism. So
Mhm.
things don't always work out the way you have been visualizing in your mind. So it's not like if you are visualizing certain things, let's say you're visualizing a very happy relationship, and it might not come in the form that you are thinking. It might not be with the person that you have in mind. The universe might have better ideas for you. And that means that sometimes, like I can give my own personal example, that when I started visualizing a happy relationship, it was not meant to be with my previous husband, but the universe brought me my current husband. And I of course, was that easy going through that, the divorce and the change and everything? It wasn't easy. It was scary because here I am in a brand new country. I don't have family here. My family's over there in India. They are freaking out that what happened to her. She's getting a divorce, and everything seemed fine on Facebook. So like, has she gone crazy? Like, they literally thought that after coming here, like, this is exactly what they said, that you think just by being in America you've become an American. Because in India people don't get divorced. So it's
Mhm.
like, I mean, things are changing now, but yeah, but even still today is
Hmm.
not very common. And that too, the woman initiating the divorce, so that's not that common either. So I went through, of course, a period of a lot of change. And not all of that was easy, definitely. So, but am I happy today? Of course. And would I change anything that happened in the past? Never. And I don't think any of those changes would have happened if I would not have started on this inner journey, on this spiritual journey. I don't think I would have had the faith or the courage to see through some of the things, to make certain decisions, to follow my heart, to follow my intuition. I wouldn't have, because in the past, I would never be following my intuition. I would always be listening to what others are telling me about and, just be in my comfort zone.
Mhm.
And I don't think that you would also be on the path of helping other people, because here I'm looking at something I've highlighted right off the bat on page 13. Um, the first sentence under remember your responsibility towards yourself. You say, if you want to help others and do great things for the world, begin with yourself first.
Mm-hmm.
And that's so true. And it was an easy one to highlight because I have to remind myself of this continually. I was just having a conversation with my good friend up in Indiana, and we have a joke, kind of a joke, but we went through a pretty intense spiritual night, if you will, where um, we deeply discovered how fragile life is, that you've got to take care of yourself or you will die.
Mm-hmm.
And, more like physiological and things like that, where you could die pretty quickly. And it was just this kind of wake up call. And now we call it rule one, where don't die, but you have to take care of yourself. And it reminds me of when every time you go on a plane, what do they say? Before you help someone else, if those air masks come down, you put yours on first, because otherwise then you're not going to be able to help anybody else because you're going to be passed out.
Exactly.
I
Right.
just wanted to kind of relate that to what you're saying, because there's certain things where it's sort of obvious, but at the same time, it's so important to constantly remind ourselves of these things. And your book was full of that for me, where maybe I've heard of it or I know about it, maybe I didn't, but either way, it's an intense reminder to keep it top of mind, in a different way, in a different context.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm glad that you brought that up, because in the spiritual community, I often see people getting in this mindset that the world needs saving. And I really don't think the world needs any saving. The world is perfect just the way it is, with all its imperfections. But if anything needs saving, then it's just you. And that
Hmm.
too, saving from your own mental noise, not from anything else, your own limiting beliefs, the stories that you tell yourself day in and day out. The It's literally just the mind playing all these games on us, and we just need saving from our own mind.
Yeah, it
Because
starts with you in your
exactly,
actions, and that's what you put out into the world. And if everybody's working on themselves, then the
right.
world is going to be a more positive place, because of the calibrations of people. Oh, I probably shouldn't be such a jerk, or I shouldn't do that because that's not good for future generations, or whatever it may be.
Right.
But it's all our actions, and you only
Yeah,
have control truly of what you do.
exactly. Yeah. And when we raise our own vibration, and there's actually like research about that, there is this very interesting book called Power versus Force by Dr. David Hawkins, where he talks about how when you raise your own vibration, your energy literally lifts up the energy of thousands of people around you. So literally, if you want to change the world, then I mean, change yourself. Raise your own energetic frequency, raise your own consciousness, your vibration, and that ways you will be energetically lifting the energy of thousands of people around you. And there was also this very interesting experiment called the Maharishi effect. They did this experiment in Washington, D.C., where a group of meditators came together and they meditated for a period of time. And during that time, they were measuring different indices like the crime rate in that area and some other like stock market and everything. And they noticed that the crime rate dropped considerably and the stock market went higher up. And the chances of that happening during that period of time was 1 in a billion. So it was not
Uh,
coincidence.
wow.
And they actually study the power of when a group of people come together with a higher intention, with, you know, and raising their consciousness, that impacts a huge geographical area of people without even being physically present with them. So that is the kind of energetic influence you can have on the whole planet just by raising your own consciousness.
So I guess the second part of that question was, are you wealthy? And I guess listening to you speak should be absolutely. Right?
I
Because
actually forgot your question. Sorry about that.
but you created this world for yourself that you're thriving in. And I find this interesting listening to you speak, because I teach on unconditional love for self, because I think that's what attracts the purest love back to you.
Yeah.
So, I coach on these pillars of self-acceptance, self-responsibility, respect for free will, and do no harm. And I think that creates the opportunity for unconditional love of self.
Mm-hmm.
Get to that point, we do have a higher vibrational energy, and we are able to affect others and be present for others. And that's my hope for everyone. And I think your book is a bridge to that for sure. So I'm grateful for it. Now, Josh, I think you had a few other questions maybe that you wrote down. Did you have a chance to go through those, or did we cover them?
I mean, we're covering a lot. My questions, some of them have been answered by your stories, Annindita, because the book sort of speaks for itself, your journey. I'm so glad we're doing this, because that's the meat that I want to learn about behind the book, behind the author. I think that's the power of this. I'm very inspired by what's happening right now and us capturing this, because I think this is so important, and I'm glad we're recording it. I think maybe questions will come up with another thing, and then I'm going to let you be, Eric. But for me, on page 55 and 56, you're talking about it's in what is it? The basics of meditation, and you talk about 5 simple and effective tips creating a feel-good space. And so number 1 is the space. Number 3 is comfort. And then number 4 is cleanliness. And 5 is mood. And it's interesting because I connect with this a lot, because for me, when I see people, and I'm going to relate this to business. If you looked at my desk right now, it's very tidy. I just have my notes for what's going on here, and that's it. I can't think. I can't do work if there's unorganization around me.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like I've been practicing a particular piece of meditation since I was a kid. I used to rearrange my room every 2 weeks to try to optimize the flow to its maximum efficiency and to my liking of the space, in order to enjoy myself the most in my space. And it's interesting over time, and reading this book and understanding what I was doing, what I currently am doing in my space, is sort of a form of meditation, where if I'm not literally meditating, which I need to do more of, and this is a reminder, my wife is a constant reminder, every day. But I'm sort of doing part of it by getting my space in order. I have a light here, and I have particular lights here. I don't like these overhead lights, but I need more lamps. Usually I'm a lamp guy. I don't do overhead lighting, because I set the mood. I get cleanly. I fix and alter my space to the best of my ability to make me enjoy the space and enjoy my time there. And then I'm not worried about the space. Then everything feels right, and I can think about whatever it is without having this baggage. And you had mentioned energetic baggage. I feel like for me, if there's a stack of papers here and over here, and there's clutter, there'd be so much baggage. I wouldn't be able to focus on this conversation right now like this. It would be impossible for me. So that just stood out to me a ton. So I wanted to kind of relate that to an experience that I've been doing my entire life. And as I continue on, even with my organization and my inbox of my emails, everything goes in a folder. And if it's not in a folder, it's an action item. And so I have a high degree of organization with my folders within my email, within my computer, as best as I can. I always feel like there's more to do, but then I go to someone else's computer or see their inbox, and I'm like, how do you even live? How do you move forward with your day? It would be paralyzing for me until I sorted through that. Then I could work. You know what I
Mm.
mean? So, anyways, I just wanted to relate that sort of because I know a lot of people in our group watching this might also be entrepreneurs and people who are doing lots of work and different things throughout the day.
Mhm.
And it's so practical what you're talking about in so many different ways. It ripples across our lives with the practices that you're talking about. It's so practical.
I'm glad that it hit home. And I remember about this book called Mary Kondo Method. Have you heard about that? I
No.
thought that since you are so much into organization, you might actually like the Mary Kondo Method. Is the whole book is about organizing, and it also incorporates energy principles as well.
Hmm.
And you know, the whole idea about reorganizing your room or your office every 2 weeks, that's actually could very well be a, you know, a part of an energy practice where you, especially when you sit in your office space and you visualize your future, like what is your future income goal, and then you tune into the energy of your office space and feel, is this congruent with your future income goal?
Huh.
And if it doesn't feel congruent, then you actually ask yourself that what needs to shift here,
Yeah.
make it congruent with your future self that is making that amount of money. And then you can make those changes. And it could be, you know, just go with the flow and trust whatever's coming up. It could be something as simple as removing a picture or changing the position of one thing, or maybe adding a plant at a particular corner. It could be something, it could be anything random, but without questioning it, just, you know, getting to that centered place of mind and doing that little, like a meditative visualization exercise, and then just energetically clearing the space.
Well, I
Mhm.
have to say that we're all a work in progress. That's what is exciting about that. You've spoken to it in our conversation here. I'm a work in progress in that I am a cluttered individual, and Josh knows from sharing space with me and working next to me. I felt guilty in that I had to clean up my space so he could thrive. So I think it's
Thank
really
you.
I
these are
know from
these
that
are
much.
areas I have to improve. So we're about reaching the end of our time. We have to be mindful of your time, Annie, because you've got a place you have to get to. But I want to thank you 1,000%. This has been such a great discussion. I don't even think we really necessarily planned on doing this, but I find so much value in it.
Yeah.
I want to give everybody that's going to listen to this a chance to one more time. I want you to tell everybody who you are, where we can get your book, and why it matters, and then we'll part ways. But thank you so much for this.
Yeah.
Thank
Thanks
you
so
for
much, Annie.
having me.
Yeah.
So, oh, you wanted me to? Okay, I was not sure. Okay. So, yes, the book Healing Sutras is available on the link on the screen right now. You can reach out for the link directly to Josh or Eric or me at anninditapaulus.com. And if you have already read the book and you want to take your healing journey further and you're interested in learning more about energy healing, I do Reiki workshops from time to time. In fact, I'm doing one this weekend in Sarasota on June 29th and 30th, and the next one would be on August 9th and 10th. And I do them at the Sarasota School of Massage Therapy. So you're more than welcome to check out my website under the events. And the programs are actually digital courses. If you are not available to take in-person workshops, then programs are available in the digital version as well. Everything that I teach in the book, I go much deeper in my programs, in my home study programs, as well as in my live in-person events. So feel free to check that out if you want to join me in person. The next one is happening this weekend. That might be too short of a notice, but the other one would be happening in August 9th and 10th. So you can check out, there are a number of workshops happening. There is meditation workshop happening, Reiki, another workshop called Abundance Revolution, which is all around creating more abundance in every area of your life. So yes, if you want to dive deeper, those are some of the options available. The book also has numerous different other authors and books that I have learned a lot from, a number of different programs that I learned from. So feel free to check those out. There's a lot of additional resources mentioned in the book as well. And the same resources are also in my website as well under the resources tab. There are a number of free tools available as well. If you have already read the book, not necessarily need the free tools because the book is already covering a lot of this thing in detail. But if you haven't read the book and you're not sure if the book is for you or not, you could always try out some of these free tools and see if this is something that you are interested in diving deeper into with the book, or taking it even further deeper with one of the workshops and programs.
Well, I love it. I'm going to try to make a workshop. I think that's maybe something we can do as Sun Leaders too. It'd be great to get a group of us and learn from you. I thank you so much for sharing your book, your knowledge, your energy with us. This has been really valued time for me. I
Yeah,
appreciate
same.
it.
Thanks so much, Annie.
Thank you so
This
much
was
for having me.
wonderful. We'll see you soon.
Thank you. I look forward to seeing you soon
Yeah.
at your new office.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yes, all
here we
right.
are. Jordan
Yes.
just popped in too. There he is. I'm going to go ahead and stop recording.